The Hughes Part 4, other parts down below. When I speak of redefining our marriage, I speak of the new foundation that we will need to build a future relationship on. I have eradicated completely what we had through my actions. The only way to go forward is to look at what we want and need as adults at this stage in our lives, and that is very different than what we needed at 21 and 22 years old. That is what I am examining. What H and I can offer each other in a relationship now. What we want and need in a relationship in the future. How we want to identify and define those ideas is what I am considering. Last night was a rough one here. I was gone to a hair appointment in the afternoon, and when I came home, I found H had been revisiting the terrible things I wrote to OM on FB. We discussed that maybe the hair appointment and me being gone was a trigger for him, or perhaps it was the fact that I was buying underwear again yesterday and tried to include him a little in that with some flirty texts. I have lost 30 pounds over the last 6 months, and everything I own is too big. I had originally purchased new things over the summer in NYC but threw them all out after D-Day 3 because I couldn't know for sure what I had worn when over the last 4 months. So, it was a combination of factors of things, I think. I didn't mean to trigger him. I was trying to reclaim something for us, I guess, but it didn't work. Sometimes H seems to want that type of thing and sometimes it has the opposite effect. So I just need to try to be more aware or else let him take the lead in situations like that. Anyway, once I got home and our son was put to bed, H and I sat in front of the computer for a bit while he read transcripts of my conversations to me, periodically interjecting with, "And you want me to take you back?" It was horrible to go through those things I had written. We had done something similar after D-Day number 1, when H made me read them aloud to him. That day I just kind of shut down to get through it. But this time, H was also explaining some of the things he felt when he discovered them the first time. It really gave me a more substantial look into what he was and is still going through when he looks at what I've done. We spent more time working on the D papers, and then said goodnight. I spent most of the night just staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how I'd behaved so cruelly and stupidly. Why didn't my brain kick in and stop me? Why was I able to just rationalize and compartmentalize and avoid all the tough things I would face by doing this? I know why I was vulnerable to the affair, and why the feelings of love were present for OM. I can guard against any sort of repeat of those situations. But that doesn't explain why I was a person who would give in to that instead of just saying no. I feel so crappy for what I did, and I hate the fact that H has to go through all this pain and anger. I would give anything to go back in time, undo this harm, and figure myself out before the affair ever even started. I am learning from this. I am making better choices and looking at myself and others more clearly now. But I wish this wasn't the way to discover that. For those who have asked, or haven't but are wondering, the things I wrote to Om and the things I did with him are similar to things that I have said and done with my husband. This is not an example of a WW denying her husband and giving things to Om. Other than the venue, FB, Skype, the types of interactions were not unusual. It probably makes it 1,000 times worse, because H can really picture me saying and doing those things, and how I'd react and look in my responses. I know that on some days, that is all I can bring to this relationship right now in his eyes. But I just keep working on changing me, being more aware and engaged with H and our son in every way available to me. And I hope the roller coaster takes us to a better place today. I will be working to try to help that happen. And if it doesn't, then I hope I can hold on to my own emotional turmoil and focus on doing what I can for H and our son in whatever way he will accept from me. I think I tell him that I am fighting for our marriage, but I will work on making sure I am very clear with that. When I talk about what I am doing or would do, H seems to not want a relationship where that is necessary, as far as transparency, boundaries, etc. But I don't think he would have to feel like my parole officer or whatever forever. I continue to offer that information and do it for myself and my own accountability at this point. I want to know that I am taking every step possible for me to never repeat any of this type of behavior again. I am and will keep fighting for our relationship to survive this. But it is ultimately H's choice what he can live with and if he can eventually see a time where we could share love and emotional connection again. If he can't, I want far more for him than a relationship without that. So, as conflicted as it feels, even though I am fighting to renew and rebuild this relationship, I will also walk away from it and give H the respect he deserves after everything that I've done. I had another IC session yesterday. It was good to get in before the holidays hit next week. I've been struggling with a low-level nausea coupled with a general depression since Saturday. I think it's just the overwhelming reality of what I've done. We talked a lot about the events of the last few days, how I feel about revisiting the FB conversation, my thoughts about how I can prevent any recurrence of this type of behavior in the future, and whether I am a fundamentally bad person. I'm still looking for what in me allowed me to say yes at the pivotal moment that it became a pop, instead of having the willpower to say no despite any feelings for Om. It's hard to face your own weaknesses and shortcomings. I would have never characterized myself as someone who would do something like this. It still sometimes feels foreign as I look at it now from outside those activities. H is coming out of his lethal plane of flatness and has been angry and sad and still disbelieving a little bit over the past few days. I've tried to do what I can for him in any given moment, whether it's hold him or stay away, depending on his wants. I think for both of us, the end of the semester and loss of structured tasks has left us more emotionally ragged and lost. There is nothing to distract us from the destruction I have wrought. Even when there are tasks that I should do, I don't or I can't. H shared Portal with me, so that's been an enjoyable distraction and some uncomplicated time together. My navigation of a first-person game like that is a bit like a drunk off his sailor on his 4th day of shore leave, but I like the puzzles and strategy. We used to really enjoy gaming together, played City of Heroes for years. But like so many other things in our relationship, that ended and we didn't replace it with something else to do together, we just did more stuff apart. I regret so much losing touch with H as my friend over the last few years. We really did, and I think still do, have a genuine enjoyment of each other. H is witty and smart, and always makes me think of things differently when we converse. I have to be out of town for 3 weeks in January. It's really starting to weigh on me and I'm fighting a lot of anxiety every time I think about it. I think that's one reason I haven't been doing the work I need to for that project right now. I don't want to leave H and our son. I worry so much about what H will go through while I am away. They could come with me for the first 5 days or so before school resumes, but I don't think H wants to right now. I just want to be able to help him manage the stress my absence. I can and will do the same types of things that I do when we are here, emailing daily schedule, checking in regularly with any changes, just communicating and letting him know that I am thinking of him. But I wonder if there's anything else I can do to maintain full transparency and keep working on our connection while I am away. I just have to keep up my own spirits and faith as well that I am in a better place than I was before and I can handle this. It does have to be me. It is a small company and I have been contracted for a year. In addition, I teach a class at the college that is tied to this. So, in essence, I am doubly contracted. I will be alone the first 10 days and then my parents and son will be joining me. If I had been injured in a car accident or the like, it is possible that the production would have been cancelled and the company would be out what it had invested so far. H and I talked about this several times over the last month and he have always said that he wants me to do it and do well. I have cancelled all future contracts that require travel. I know the timing of this is bad, but it's not a surprise for us. It happens every year. Is it more important than my marriage? Absolutely not. Will I ever take on another contract like this again? Not likely, unless H can really convince me it's what he wants me to do. Yes, it will give H an opportunity to see what life is like without me. Am I going to do everything I can to stay in contact with him and let him know I wish we were together? Of course, the business I am in doesn't have the honor of someone who does military service, but often the expectations are similar, with much less job security. If you don't honor your contracts, you don't work. I've missed many important things in life, as does everyone else who really pursues the performing arts. When H and I were beginning our relationship, he knew the path I was on and chose to accept it as part of loving me. I know when he says now that he wants me to have a great production, he really does mean it. Will it be incredibly hard for both of us? Without a doubt. Am I terrified about the possible outcomes? Yes, but I have to trust right now that he means what he says when he tells me he wants me to do well and knowing that I will be doing everything possible to maintain our relationship while I am away. I am not giving up on us. I hope that H will know how much I miss him and miss me in return. I hope I can offer him support and love and continue to show through my actions my dedication to being a changed individual. H and I talked again yesterday. I have arranged for a mutually agreeable female chaperone to travel with me until my parents arrive, and potentially stay through the performance. I had already planned on not taking the laptop. I'll also get the recommended voice recorder. Lastly, I'm asking H to change my iTunes password before I go, so I can't add any programs, apps to my phone while I am there. I do need that as a bare minimum for communications with my online students and school after the semester begins while I am away. I have a day off in the middle of the rehearsals, and will be driving back to spend it with H. Regarding the necessity of it being me, I am not a performer with an understudy. I am the director. The entire show is on me. It's a show that is very rarely done, so there are only a handful of directors worldwide that would have it prepared and in their repertoire. And frankly, none of them would do it at short notice for the amount the company is able to pay. Breaking my contract doesn't just mean I am out what the company would pay me. It means 50 choristers, 50 orchestra members, 10 principals, scenic designers, stage hands, costume designers, and stage managers are suddenly unemployed too. It means tens of thousands of dollars have been spent building sets and costumes that won't be used. It means hundreds of season and single ticket holders need to be refunded. It means irreparably damaging the reputation of the company by canceling their season opening production. The amount the company could sue me for as breach of contract is astronomical and would bankrupt me, and I think by extension H since we are still legally married. I am not Santa Claus, but I work in a very specialized field and this show is unusual within that. He has never once hesitated regarding my job and this trip in particular, even over the last 5 weeks. Just as I have to trust him to tell me whether he wants me close or away while I am here, I have to trust his sincerity in the conversations we've had. I am 3 hours away, but if H was having a bad night and would allow it, I would drive back at the drop of a hat to be with him for a few hours and return for rehearsals the next day. I know that people always have a choice, sometimes none of them are good choices. But H is telling me I don't need to consider one of those choices. I trust him and know that I'm doing everything I can to handle the situation as it evolves. Regarding future commitments, I have already cleared my schedule of all outside contracts for the rest of the year and have no plans to accept any future offers. I also am working with my colleagues to minimize my workload at school so I can have a more predictable schedule through the spring. I know that I need better balance with my work and family. I am making those changes as quickly as I can. I did tell H he didn't get it in an argument we had, one of very few over our lifetime. I was very upset and emotional over losing an essential cast member of a production that had the opportunity to compete for national awards, akin to a bowl game or the like for a sports team, I suppose. He made a comment about wondering why I was so upset, and I replied with the aforementioned comment. It was more hurtful to him than I ever intended. That happens in arguments. There are certainly things he has also said over the years that have hurt me more than he ever meant them to. That's what happens when you fight with someone you love. That comment is just one of a myriad of things I would take back if I could. I don't have an assistant director. His company is too small to hire them. There is a stage manager, but that is a totally different type of position. I am working on really reading H and trying not to put him in any position where he could do something for me. Every decision that I make, every option on the table for the past 5 weeks is immediately disregarded if there is something for me versus H in it. I can't undo past actions or commitments, but I can make sure I don't choose any future path that isn't in line with what my family's needs are. So, for example, I cannot become a SOM because my family's finances couldn't support that sacrifice. But I can minimize my workload and late hours as much as possible to still adequately perform my job and be home with H and my son. And I can look for a different job that would have the potential for less time investiture. Regarding planning for OM or other NC individuals to resurface, if he contacts me and H is available, I will immediately give him the phone, computer to deal with him as he sees fit. If H is not around, I will immediately hang up and call H and give him the contact number used, if known. Any correspondence will be forwarded directly to H as third parties discuss him with me, which so far has been in an unaware manner. Not someone passing me a message. I tell them that I have no contact with OM anymore and not to talk about him with me. If it is an adult, I have been acknowledging the affair, H's pain, and my efforts to eliminate any aspect of that from my future life. If it is a student, I provide no details and just leave it as is. I have reported all conversations like that to H and have discussed his preferences in advance. If I know I will be seeing someone who is likely to bring up OM, if OM were to physically show up, I would immediately remove myself from the environment and go straight to where H is, or a safe zone where I could call H and OM couldn't follow. I feel secure in the plans, efforts we are making, but would welcome any additional ideas or potential holes I have missed. I am very concerned about this trip. I hope my posts don't minimize that. But I know H feels right now that he can't think clearly about what happened and how he feels with me around. I don't want H to stay with me because I sucked him back in, his words from the other night. But I need to know he is really willing to choose to work on this with me. I never want him to look back on things and wish he'd taken a different path and feel like he couldn't make an informed decision. I desperately want to minimize his pain, to stay in close contact and show my love in a variety of ways, and also continue to show that I can make good decisions where OM is concerned. My anxiety level regarding this separation is extreme right now, but I have to face my obligations and respect H's wish for me to go and give him time to think. I will be chaperoned 24 hours a day. My phone will always be answered, by myself or my chaperone if I absolutely cannot in that moment. I will stop rehearsals to speak to H unless I am on union time. I want so badly for H to miss me, to attend the show and be proud of what I've done there. Both of those are unlikely, if I am being really honest with myself. But H said to me today, if I bomb this show, I will really have destroyed everything in my life for this affair. My marriage, my friendships, my professional abilities. I think I can get through the show successfully. I truly hope I can build a new relationship with H. The friendships are gone, but hopefully I can come through this time smarter about myself and others, more in touch with what is truly important to me and knowing how to preserve and honor that. You'll forgive me if I hope you are wrong and that H and I don't follow the path you and your XW suffered through. I will not allow the affair to resume. Not now, not ever. I hope H will communicate honestly with me over our separation about his pain and I can make good choices about driving back and forth and doing anything else I can to help with that. Anyone who wants to share positive energy or prayers for us would be greatly appreciated. We're not religious, but I have a spiritual side, and certainly prayers. Good vibes never hurt anyone. Well, lately I've been riding the roller coaster as best I can here and trying to be supportive and helpful to my husband. Overall, I would say the holidays were far better than I could have expected. The weekend before Christmas, our family went to visit H's mom so they could make cookies together. She wasn't sure she wanted to see me, so I spent the day and night with mutual friends that had been very supportive to H and I as we go through this horrible experience. Seeing and dealing with H's mom was a huge anxiety source for me. I knew she had hated H's XW for a long time, and H had once commented that he could never tell her what I did because she would never forgive me and our family interactions would be ruined forever. But the next day, she agreed to let me come into her house to watch our son while she and H frosted cookies, and she invited us back for Christmas Day. It was really a miracle in my mind. Christmas Eve I cooked dinner for us and we opened some gifts together. H seemed to really like his present from me, and we had fun watching our son really get into things. After his bedtime, though, things shifted for the worse. H started by calmly telling me he couldn't accept the present I gave him, that it would always be associated with this horrible time in our lives. I was terribly disappointed. I really was excited to find something I thought was perfect and a surprise, but I can understand his view, so I simply agreed. After that, he spiraled down into a rage for several hours. Lots of disbelief, statements about what I did, and choosing to use words and phrases that are accurate, but nonetheless, exceptionally hurtful because of the terrible names, etc. He struggled with this for a long time before deciding to go upstairs to watch a movie. I let him go, spent about 30 minutes getting myself together, and then followed him up. He let me in and we watched the film together, and then returned to bed, and rewound to exactly the same place we were in before we watched the movie. It made me so sad to watch him go through such pain and anger. I tried to hold him, but he didn't want that, so we just spent the night lying next to each other, him raging, me trying to respond when there was something to respond to, and otherwise, trying to hold myself together so I could be there for him instead of drowning in my own hurt. Neither of us really slept. Christmas morning was the same between H and I, but we got up with our son and enjoyed watching him open his Santa presents. H went back to bed while our son and I FaceTime with my parents so they could watch him open presents from them. Then we got ready to go to H's family for Christmas dinner. I was pretty much a wreck at this point, regressed to dry heaving, vomiting up bile, which I haven't really done from emotion, stressed since about 2 weeks after D-Day 2/3. I was dreading 2 hours in the car with H, not knowing if we were just going to continue the tirade from the night before, not knowing what to expect from him family, not knowing if I could keep calm in front of my son and not scare him again. So, I took 2 Xanax. My doctor had prescribed them for me after Thanksgiving, and I have sporadically used a single pill here and there to get myself together, make sure I could eat, and not just panic and vomit constantly. This was the first and last time I will ever take 2. I don't like pills in general, and this made me really tired. It was hard to even experience my emotion, let alone clearly communicate about them. I don't remember a lot about the drive. H had some comments, questions, and I tried to answer, but wasn't really there, I guess. Things with his family were far better than I could have ever hoped. Certainly nothing I deserved. I figured that a best-case scenario would be everyone complete ignoring me, isolating me from the conversation, activities of the day. I spent a lot of time on the drive painting worst-case scenarios, being screamed at by his siblings, thrown out by his dad, things of that nature. Instead, they were all pleasant, relatively normal conversation, and game playing together. I took a few minutes with each of H's siblings, his dad, and my stepson to apologize in person. I told them they didn't have to discuss things with me, that I just wanted them to know how sorry I was for how badly I'd hurt H, and that I would do anything I could to help him go forward. H's brother and my stepson were mostly silent. His dad was amazing. Gave me a hug, told me I was still his favorite daughter-in-law, of course, I'm the only daughter-in-law, and that he hoped we could work on things. His sister responded similarly, with the people make mistakes kind of commentary that really upsets H, but also that she hopes we can figure stuff out. I didn't talk to his mom that day because I had left her a crying message after D-Day 2, and H had said it wasn't right for me to force myself on people with this situation, and my apologies. So, I only spoke to those that I hadn't spoken with before. The last few days have been really wonderful, as far as navigating this kind of situation goes. We left H's mom's house, and he asked if I had spoken with her in person like everyone else. I said no and mentioned why. He suggested I go back in and talk to her too, so I did, and was really glad about that. She decided to be the bigger person so that our son could have a nice Christmas, and I told her I would do whatever H needed to go on. Whether that is D or R, I told her I would never stand in his way and make sure that things go as smoothly as I can make them as we navigate this. She seemed glad to hear that, after the years of combative divorce H suffered with his XW. We have talked and talked these last 3 days. H said he just wanted to spend all day in my arms, so we took our son to daycare and spent a day essentially like that. I asked how he felt about me going up to watch the movie with him when he was so angry that night, and he said that more of him wanted me there than wanted me away, so that was good for me to hear. It helps to know that even when he says stay away or he hates me, he just needs me to be tenacious and keep trying with him. We continued this pattern until last night, and then last night became another angry evening for H. The cycle is so hard on him. Worse, because he says he can't identify any specific trigger right now. Things that I think should and will set him off don't seem to. We seem to be able to talk through those. But then out of the blue, to me, it seems, he will just become engulfed with anger and pain, and I have no clue how to anticipate those moments and his needs. So, I am stuck reacting instead of trying to be proactive to help him. I hate that. So, I'm still waiting to see which way the roller coaster takes us today. I got up with our son and am letting H sleep in. He ended up taking some medicine to help with that late last night. I know this is going to be our future for a while, but I hope I can keep working to identify and anticipate these episodes, so I can be more supportive and helpful to H. He is so amazing and strong, and it breaks my heart to listen to him talk about how stupid he is and what a loser he feels like. I never thought those things of him, and I try to show him every single moment of every day that that is not who he is. Update. Number 1. My son is not a mistake, and that line of discussion is absolutely ended. He is wonderful, adorable, and brilliant, and I have loved every minute with him since he has been born. You can say what you want about me being a crappy mother because of my affair, but the fact is, I fed him for 2 years, instead of using a stroller, made all his baby food from scratch, cloth diapered, and helped bathe him, read to him, and put him to bed every single night that I am home. The world is full of crappy, neglectful parents, and as much as I hate myself for the mess I have made of my life over the last year, I know I am a caring, good mother. Second, actions. I drove 3.5 hours last night to come home on my one day off to spend with H and our son. I will drive back for rehearsal tomorrow morning. I am carrying the voice-activated recorder every minute of every day. I have my chaperone with me. I call, text H and our son several times each day to let them know I am thinking of them and try to speak with them each night before bedtime. I even mailed a card to H so he would get a different form of communication from me than is typical while I am away. It is still sitting unopened on the table. H's and my phone conversations have been going well. We've only had one night where things turned angry, upset. I've enjoyed hearing from him about his adventures discovering Minecraft and finishing his zombie, and it seems he has been interested in my rehearsal and the process so far. The show is going relatively well, and I have only needed to use my med prescription to get through one day so far. I have been telling H everything that I feel and sharing even the bad stuff I sometimes go through, instead of trying to save that from him. I still feel incredibly awkward about it, because I am sure it pales compared to his pain and struggles, but I want to be completely open to him. When I got back last night, we spent an hour or so having casual conversation, and then the topic turned to our relationship and the affair. It didn't end positively. I slept in the guest room, my new room, which I hadn't done since before Christmas. It was wonderful to wake up to my son this morning though, and H let me pour his coffee and run an errand that he needed done today, so I was glad to have that opportunity to do a little something for him while I am home. I spent the afternoon making homemade soup while our son napped, and I am hopeful we have a nice evening together as a family. As much as possible anyway, given the terrible mess that I have put us through. I scheduled a counseling session today while I was home, and it was good to check in with her. We talked about the past week and what it's been like to be out of town, how helpless I feel with the struggles that H has, sick, daycare closed, son sick, and how I feel like it's hard for me to know what to do. When I arranged a friend to watch our son while H was sick so he could rest, H seemed angry about that. So then when the daycare was closed, I didn't do anything but offer him information. He decided not to pursue it and ended up missing the first 2 days of the semester, which makes me feel even more awful. It's so difficult to walk the line of taking actions to show him I care and I am working, even if he says not to, because I've been told he doesn't know what he wants by the vets here, and showing him respect by allowing him to handle these situations himself. In addition, we talked about how my job is going and my overwhelming negativity towards myself in all aspects of life. She says every time I think something negative about myself, I have to list 5 positive things immediately after. That's impossible right now. I don't think there are 5 things on that list, but I'll start small. 1. My son always seems happy to see me. 2. I make really good scrambled eggs, and I think good chicken and rice soup, especially considering I am not terribly domestically inclined. 3. My colleagues always seem to be pleased with my work. Hopefully I can add to that list one day at a time. I love my family more than anything, and I am trying every day to show them that, from both near and far. Also, regarding my inability to give H a reason to stay married, I am communicating my feelings and the value I place on our relationship. H doesn't want to hear that from me given my recent involvement in the affair. It's not that I can't give him any reasons, but my previous actions are preventing him from feeling my sincerity and love now. Everyone who cheats and successfully reconciles needs the BS to decide they will accept that their affair made the marriage seem worthless, but the WS rediscovered, remembered, renewed that value in their hearts after ending the affair. H is not ready to do that yet, and that is fine. I will keep telling and showing him that I value this. Here's the fact. I could have any job or no job, and had I repeated my behavior prior to the affair, the same thing would have happened. The fault is mine as a person. I stopped communicating with H, projected my own negative opinions about myself onto him, and then drew away even further. I then found an outside individual unrelated to that inner negativity to connect with. So, while me therapist may be an idiot, I don't know, having never been in therapy before and neither do you from the minuscule amount of information that has been shared regarding my sessions, I can understand the motivation for making me want to address and overcome my self-esteem issues as they relate to this issue substantially. Now, I understand people with traditional jobs and traditional gender roles don't understand or particularly value alternative arrangements. In many situations, the father is not there to put the child to bed every night, etc. But because it is the father, it is much more socially acceptable than for the mother to be the one working. Also, very rarely do parents change their entire career field because they became parents. Perhaps if H and I were the kind of people who just had jobs to earn money. But we're not. Our jobs are a result of our creative drives, personalities, and energy. It's not simply a paycheck. We are lucky to do something we are passionate about to make a living rather than be someone who hates their life for 40-60 hours of every week. It is as much of who we are as people and why we were attracted to each other as our physical appearance. Can I balance priorities better? Of course. More importantly, can I make sure that H is included in all my experiences so that we always have a common ground, shared energy, and passion? Yes. Is it a gross exaggeration to say I was out all night 14 to 16 weeks a year? Of course. Most evenings, rehearsals finish between 8 to 10, but I do miss bedtime. What about a mother who works second shift and never puts her children to bed? Does she not love them because they share breakfasts instead? It's all hypothetical. The root of H's dissatisfaction with me at home wasn't the amount of time that I was gone, but that I had no energy when I was present. So, I am changing that. Not only have I lessened my outside commitments, rehearsals substantially, and to be honest, to the detriment of my students' achievement levels a little, but I am also substantially more engaged at home. I don't watch TV, read, or web surf in my spare time anymore. I sit with H, converse, and watch him play games or paint. You can say I don't get it, but I think I do. H and I have spoken very clearly about my work and our lives. He specifically notes that it was the most recent batch of students that increased their level of neediness and my interactions with them ratcheted up in response. After what we've been through, it's much easier for me to simply not engage with new students to that level. If I never know their problems, needs, I can't feel guilty for not helping them. As a result, personal boundaries are stronger and time allocation is better. We are looking for other jobs and as a result, moving to a different environment. But that takes time, and we have contracts to honor through the end of the academic year. Other people remain at their jobs out of financial necessity and other reasons, even if it means they still see the AP. I am not doing that, nor am I saying that is right. But families in our situation need to consider all aspects, and the reality is, finances and job stability is a big part of life. My comment, the finale of this relationship coming out in a few hours. I need to rest my hands a bit because I've been working on these for a while. Subscribe, and let me finish it and get it out soon.